Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be going through an introduction to the CTEC Media Level 2 course at Thomas Rotherham College. This video you're going to be introduced to the CTEC Media course. We're going to look in a little bit of detail on the different units and assessment methods for each unit. I'm going to go over the various different areas of the media that we're going to be focusing on, and then we'll also take a look at some past examples of student work to give you an idea of the standard of work that you can expect to be working towards this year. So obviously if you've not done media before, and I imagine most of you haven't, you might not be aware of what we could actually be focusing on when we talk about the media, because the media is a massive industry. Okay, there are many different pathways that we could go down when we're looking at the different areas of the media that we could look at. So for example, we've got things like advertising, film, journalism, video games, TV, magazines, music videos, things like that. So that's quite a wide scope that we could potentially look at. Now for this year, in this particular course, the ones that are going to be most relevant to us in terms of on this list are going to be things like design, a bit of analysis, representation, genre, audiences, photography and film, and a little bit of creativity as well, I suppose. Okay, and that will become a bit more clear once I've gone through this video. So in a nutshell, this course is 100% coursework. Okay, there is absolutely no exam in this course. Okay, it's all practical. Well, no, sorry, it's not all practical. It's all coursework from 3 units. Okay, it's a mixture of written work, research and planning, and creative practical work. Okay, one of the units is purely written, one of the units is purely creative, and one of the units a little bit of both. Okay, the units that we do will be made up of a mixture of classwork and homework. Now the reason we're doing that is because there's a lot of stuff in our course that we can only do whilst we're on site at college. So for example, things like practical work using Photoshop or doing some photography, stuff like that, we can only do that in college because we've got the software and the facilities available. Which means that we need to make sure that we're finding that balance between what can be done at home and what can be done at college. Okay, so there is an expectation from me that you will need to complete as much of the work that you can complete at home. Alright, so these are the 3 units that we do in total. We start off looking at Unit 1, which is Media Products and Audiences. Then we'll move on to Unit 13, Planning and Producing a Media Product. And finally Unit 30, Print Media Production. Now each of these units is equally weighted in terms of going towards your final grade. They're each worth a third. Okay, your final grade will be calculated by basically what you get for each individual grade. Okay, for each unit. For each unit, you can get either a fail, a pass, a merit, or a distinction in total. So it's very similar to if any of you might have done a CTEC Level 2 before. Okay, so it's fail, pass, merit, or a distinction grade. Overall, you can get either a fail, pass, merit, distinction, or a distinction star. You can only get distinction star by getting the distinction for pretty much everything. Okay, so I just wanted to spend a bit of time quickly going over the grading criteria just so you know how you achieve the certain grades. So for each unit you'll have something like this, which is the criteria that you've got to cover for that unit. So for you to get a pass grade, you can see here that you've got a list of criteria that have got a P next to it. These are all the pass criteria. Then some with an M next to it, and then one with a D next to it. Okay. For you to get a pass grade, you have to meet all of the pass criteria. So all the work we do will be going towards these different pieces of criteria here. So for you to get a pass, you've got to get P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. To get a merit, you've got to get all the pass criteria again and all the merit criteria. Okay, so all these 5, and then M1, M2, and M3. And then for a distinction, you've got to get all the P criteria, all the M criteria, and the D criteria as well for you to get a distinction overall. Okay, if say for example you get all the P criteria, M1 and M2, you will only get a pass overall because you've not met all the merit criteria. Okay, so you've got to make sure you've got all the criteria first before you can move on to the next highest grade. Alright, in terms of some of the key skills that we'll be using throughout the year, textual analysis is going to be a big one. So we'll be looking at, with regards to media product, we won't just be looking at things like how have they been created a certain way. We'll be looking at why they've been created a certain way. You know, what's the effect behind it? What's the meaning behind it? So really, in reality, that's quite similar to what you might have done before for something like English literature at school, where instead of our English lit, you might have analysed a poem or a piece of text or an extract from a book, and you look at, you know, the language and how it's been used to create certain meanings. We will do the same thing, but we'll also look at things like the visual side of it as well. So why have they used certain colour schemes? Why have they used certain shot types? Why have they, you know, used certain editing techniques or mise-en-scène or sound, things like that? What's the meaning behind it? For each practical work we do, we'll do a lot of research and planning. And then for your practical work as well, you'll obviously do your own photography. You will be using page layout and design techniques and image manipulation as well. And there will be some report writing as well, but that's more, you know, common at the start of the course, and then that's about it really. Okay, so for Unit 1, this one is basically an introduction to how we study the media. Okay, so we will be looking at, first of all, how audiences understand generic conventions of media products. Now, what that basically means is how our audience is aware that a product belongs to a certain genre. So how do you know, for example, you're looking at a poster for a horror film? Or how do you know you are looking at a music magazine? You know, what are the different sort of expectations or rules that you would expect to see in that particular product? We will also look at how how products are constructed to appeal to certain audiences. You know, what techniques do they use to make sure that audience is going to be more likely to purchase that product or go and see that film, whatever it may be. We will also be doing some textual analysis stuff, like I mentioned before, so looking at how products are constructed to create meaning and elicit a response from audiences. And then some industry stuff as well. So we'll look at how products are owned, distributed and marketed across the world, as well as some legal and ethical issues as well that you find. Now for this unit, we're going to look specifically on horror films, okay, because it's quite a nice, not easy, but quite interesting industry to look at. So we will be looking at horror films, but we'll also specifically look at one horror film production company and an example of a film that they've produced. So we're going to look at Hammer Film Productions, which, if you don't know about Hammer, it's a really famous, really sort of classic British horror film production company that was really, really famous in the 1950s. They still exist today, they're still making films today, and we're going to focus on the film they made called The Woman in Black, which some of you might have seen before. It's quite a famous film, it's got Daniel Radcliffe in there, and it was a play as well beforehand. Pretty good film, but we're going to focus on that as our case study. Okay, so moving on to Unit 13. This unit is the first creative unit that we do. So for this, I'm not going to bother going through this entire list, because the basic crux of it is you're going to produce a print advertising campaign for a brand new horror film that you're going to create. Okay, you're going to do your own photography, you're going to do your own image manipulation, you're going to come up with the idea for your film yourself, and then make your posters. Okay, you're going to create a poster campaign, which means 3 different posters for the same film. So you're going to do one poster that's called a one-sheet poster, which has got all the information that you need. You're going to make a billboard, and you're also going to create a teaser poster as well. Okay, it's all got to be original designs, your own ideas. Okay, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Okay, you will do a lot of planning and research that has to go towards that as well. Some of it will be a class, some of it will be individual. Now there's some examples of posters that people have made in the past. Now the one thing I will say is that a lot of the posters or examples that you see on the page now, they were made by people who had never used Photoshop before. okay, or had very, very little experience in using Photoshop. So if you are worried that you have never used Photoshop before, okay, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, we will teach you how to use that stuff, okay. And these ones here, most of them have never used Photoshop before, and you can see that these are some really, really good examples. Okay, these are all very, very high grade pieces of work, okay. If you want to see some more examples, there's loads of examples on our Instagram page, and you can find us at TRC Media and Film. Have a look on there. There's loads of examples of posters that we've made over the last couple of years or so. And then finally we move on to Unit 30, which is print media production. Now this unit is a little bit of a combination between what we do in Unit 1 and what we do in Unit 13. So there's a little bit of written stuff in which we'll look at the print media industry. So we'll look at things like the production, distribution and regulation of print media. So by print media we mean magazines and newspapers. And then we'll also do a couple of pieces of analysis of magazines and newspapers as well. And all that will lead on towards you creating a new magazine. Okay, it can be any sort of magazine you want. Any genre, and it could be fashion, it could be football, it could be music, it could be film, video games, anything really. And you're going to make a front cover and a single page spread for that particular magazine. Again, same sort of idea as your horror poster with regards to the fact that you're going to do your own designs, your own photography, your own image manipulation on Photoshop, that sort of stuff. Now unfortunately we've not got that many great examples of magazines because last year we didn't get to do this unit because obviously we had to close because of COVID. Okay, but there are a few more examples again on the Instagram page, so feel free to check those out. But again, we've got a couple of good examples to give you an idea of what sort of stuff you're going to be expected to make. Now, obviously, you're in a bit of a weird situation given the fact that you're going to be coming back after having pretty much 6 months and not in school. So it's going to be really important that you use the advice I'm going to give you and the help I'm going to give you as well to make sure that you're keeping on top of everything you need to keep on top with. So the first thing you need to be aware of is that we use a lot of flipped learning. If you don't know what flipped learning is the idea that rather than me delivering content to you at the front of the classroom and stood there talking for ages, you will do that for homework. So it might be watch a video that I've made, okay, or read an article, okay, and then you will do that before the next lesson, okay, and in the lesson we will then go over that stuff in more detail, or we'll work on our assignments. All right, so essentially the homework we'll do in class and the classwork we'll do at home, hence why it's called flipped learning. Okay, it's the stuff that we do is largely going to be through watching videos and answering questions, okay, but obviously that only works if everyone does it. So you need to make sure you're keeping up with the flipped learning that you will get set every week. We will also have support sessions every week, as well as distance learning activities similar to what you might have had at the end of, well, when you left school at the end of year 11. Now this one is quite an important one because I need to look at this from a realistic point of view. Okay, given that I pretty much know that most of you are doing level 2 media because you didn't really have that much of a choice. Okay, you know, there's not a massive, you know, area of choice for you for your level 2 programs at TRC. Now a lot of you probably chose media because there was nothing really else to choose. I get that, I really do get that. So what I'm expecting of you is, even though this probably wasn't your first subject choice, you still need to make sure you've got a positive attitude towards your work. Okay, it makes my life easier, it makes your life easier. Okay, and given the fact that it is 100% coursework, it is going to take that pressure off around about exam time when you would normally have your GCSEs or your GCSE resits. Okay, so use that to your advantage. Okay, obviously make sure you check your emails regularly. I will often send out, you know, little useful tips that I found or little useful videos that I found that might be helpful to you. So make sure you're checking those, and obviously keep yourself organised as well. Okay. That is pretty much it, what I need to go through for this video. If you need to contact me, contact details are on the page right now. So my name is Simon Carter. My office is in MO36, which is on the bottom floor of the main building. My email address is on the page as well, and there's also the Instagram page on there. Okay, any questions, anything you want to know about that you don't understand, email me, please feel free. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So see you in a bit. TRC